the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away, and every branch that bears fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. You are already clean because of the word which I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me, and I in him, bears much fruit, for without me you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he is cast out as a branch and is withered, and they gather them and throw them into the fire, and they are burned. Last verse. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, you will ask what you desire, and it shall be done for you. I'm going to be taking for a subject again on today. Don't let it die on the vine. Don't let it die on the vine. You may be seated. A couple weeks ago, we were here and we tried our best to articulate in a way in the first part of this series, Don't Let It Die on the Vine. We have been in the theme since the beginning of the year, and I believe we'll carry on living out loud, which is purposing to live your entire life out loud, living it out in the open where others can see God doing the work in you, not just through you, but the work in you. It is our desire that many of us, as we are growing in our relationships with the Lord, and I'm going to say this again, with the Lord, because all of us will develop relationships with others. We will focus on relationships with our husbands, our wives, our children, our parents, our friends, our co-workers, even business associates. We will develop those relationships. And those relationships will be developed on a myriad of things. But for all of us, we struggle with the continuity and the consistency of having a relationship with God that is stable, that is constant, that is consistent with what he has said from the very beginning of your life, before your life, what he said before you even were born, what he had created you for. And I have discovered that even in my own life, even as we are struggling right now in 2021 throughout the world, throughout the city, throughout this country, we're struggling to find something steady to hold on to. We're finding more and more that our relationship with the Lord is waning. It is faulty. It is almost like our relationship with him is rickety. It is unstable, that it's almost like coming down a steep stairway and holding on to the only thing that is available, which is the handrail, and finding out the handrail is not secure. And many of us, our relationships with God are like that handrail. We like the idea of being able to garner the benefits from God, but not committing to God. We love the relationship that gives us what we want, but don't like what we get. We like the idea that God is one who loves us unconditionally, but we ourselves refuse to love him the same way in return. I am one that I commit wholeheartedly to anything that I do. If I put my hands on something or if there's a task, I am relentless to not give up, to not walk away. I am that one that if there is something wrong or something broken or faulty, that I am relentless that I will not leave it until I have resolved the issue. Sometimes for me, it might be even to a fault. I have, throughout my years of marriage, as I will often talk about being married for 33 years and understanding that that relationship was not always secure. It oftentimes felt like it was going to crumble and make me fall right into a deep chasm. It didn't seem like things were going to work out, even though we had committed to working things out. It just seemed the more we committed, the more things would start to fall apart. I am committed in more ways than I can describe. And I want you to just hear me on this morning, that all of us in this room and the people that are on the line who are hearing me and those who will watch on YouTube later and will embrace certain parts of today's message, dying on the vine. Many of us are dying on the vine because on the vine was not purpose for us to be there. We weren't supposed to be on the vine. We were supposed to be in the vine. All of us like the ability of being close to something until trouble and tribulation breaks out. We like a good relationship. We like a good job. We like all of the things that come with those things that we desire and pray for and ask God for until trouble breaks out. It's when trouble breaks out that we wonder whether or not where we are is what God truly desires. Amen. Many of us have read this text and have come away with the idea that even as Jesus says that I am the true vine. Mm-hmm. He says, but my Father is the one who dresses the vine. Says that he prunes it. That's right. Says he clips it and he cuts it. He refines it and he makes it to where even if it's producing fruit, that he will prune it so it will produce more fruit. We have read this and we will all associate and attach our own logic to this text because we believe that fruit is anything that we do. Anything that comes of our hands, it is fruit. But Jesus is not just talking about any fruit when he's talking about this text. And I believe that many of us have missed it. I'm not saying that I have cornered the market on this text, but I believe that many of us have missed it when we read this text, when he's talking about the fruit that needs to produce. If you're not producing the fruit, he said that his Father will clip you from the vine. What kind of fruit is he talking about? Because oftentimes we believe that the fruit is what we like and what we produce and what is to our benefit. But I honestly believe that the fruit that he is talking about is not something that you can touch with your hands. It's not something that can be corrupted by other people. It's not something that can be changed by a circumstance. We will fast and pray for a great job. Great career. We will fast and pray for love. We will fast and pray for money. We will fast and pray for the best opportunity. But that is not fruit. Because all of those things can change on the dime. That's right. That's right. I know for me, it is being able to drive by a car lot look at a car that I believe I desire, or drive by a beautiful home that I desire, or drive by a beautiful woman and believe that at very moment that it is someone or something that God desires for me to have. And we get excited because, God, this is what I want. You said if I name it and claim it, you'll give it to me. But that ain't scripture. And we often buy into this idea that if in fact we see someone or something that we desire and we ask God for it, he will grant it to us. Yes, Lord. But this text doesn't give us that. He says, abide in me. Now that word abide, on the surface, it means to live and to dwell. That's the surface. The surface says, if you camp out in me, if you live in me. But there's more to the word abide. More to this word is tolerate, endure, stand. We all know when you've done all you can, we stand. So he says, if you abide in me, not just live in me, but if you tolerate me, if you endure with me, if you stand in me. He says at this point, he says, for all of us, we have read this. And I'm jumping down to verse number 7, and I'm going to go back. But he says, if you abide in me and my words abide in you, you will ask what you desire, and it shall be done for you. But he says, if my words abide in you, he says, what I put in you, if you endure with what you know I put in you, if you tolerate with what you know I put in you, that means that when chaos breaks out in your life, that you hold on to what you know he has said. Then he says, you can ask, and it shall be done for you. But what is it that I should be asking? Because oftentimes we'll read this and we'll think, if I ask anything, but that's not what he says. What is it that we should be asking for? More fruit. What kind of fruit should we be asking for? Right away, when you think of the fruit, my mind goes to Galatians 5 and 23, 22 and 23. And this is what he's saying. He says, if you abide in me and my words abide in you, you can ask what you desire, but what you should be desiring are not temporal and carnal things, but things that last in the vine. What is that? Love. Yes, sir. Some of us have love, but we fall out of love. His love you can't fall out of. He never falls out of love with us. So he says, ask for more love and I will give it to you. He says, joy. I know you're crying tonight. You cried last night. You wondered, in spite of this, will you ever laugh again? Will you ever smile again? But he said, ask me for more joy. If you ask me, I will give it to you. That's only if you're in me. Not if you're on me, not if you're on the surface, not if you're wanting to only commit part way with me, but wholeheartedly. We don't like to buy in with God because really, the truth be told, when we buy into the entire relationship, everything comes with that. He says, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. Many of us love him enough until we have to keep a commandment, or the commandment that we don't want to keep. He says, if you want more peace, ask for it. I'll give that to you. it gets a little sticky now, because the writer in Galatians has given us love, joy, and peace. But he says, you ask for those things, but if you need more long suffering, you need to ask for more long suffering, because where you are, you've become so impatient at this point that you need to know that it is still God, even though the storm is going crazy outside. It's still God. It's still the word that he's given you to succeed and to have dominion over everything that is under your feet. When I think of my own life, think of the things that I have endured. I can go through events way in the back, but I can think of just over a few days ago, as I was in Arkansas. I was on the highway, and as I'm driving and I'm watching as the sun is shining, and a little further it starts to go away, the clouds cover, it gets dark, the wind starts to blow, and then it blows even harder, and then it starts to rain, and then it comes down torrential rain, and then it comes down so bad that I can't remember any other time that it rained this bad. That literally, that it came down that I could not see even the hood of the car. And right away, my foot went to the brakes and to the four-way flashes. And I couldn't see the white line on the road to make sure that I kept in between the parameters that I had. And right away, my natural thought was to pull over, to just wait it out. God said, nah, no, there are people behind you. They can't see either. And if you stop, you only imagine what happens when you stop, what that effect will do for the ones behind you. Many of us in this room don't know that there are others who are watching your very action while you're going through chaos, and hell is breaking out in your life, and you want to stop and pull over. God is saying, no, trust in my word. But God, they treating me bad. I just want to give up. Trust in my word. But God, they calling me all out. Trust in my word. Well, God, you gave me this, and it's like they want to take it. Trust in my word. We often just want to pull off to the side and wait for the storm to pass. That storm came down, and I wanted to stop, but in a matter of seconds, it was gone. And a lot of us have a reaction to things that happen in our lives, and they have an everlasting effect. They last longer than the storms in our own lives. Say it. We're going through something and we panic. When God says, I'm there. I'll be there. I'll never leave you. I'll never forsake you. I'm always there. When you call me, I'm there. Our problem is that we want him to come when we call him. Those of us who have children, we know there's the call, and then there's the call. You know, there's the call, the little whimper. Then there's the call that's out of desperation. When you become a new parent, you don't know the difference. Those of us, we know your first child, you know everything that happened when they whimpered. You ran, you jumped. If it was something that just didn't seem right, you wanted to figure this thing out, and so you were right there every time they made a move. If they stumbled, you were right there. That second, third, fourth, fifth child. Jesus knows us. And when we start to whimper and he don't come, he says, you don't have enough long suffering. You haven't built up enough calluses in your own life. You don't have these spiritual calluses where you can handle these rough things that come across in your life, where you struggle with this idea that you are not going to have any trouble in this magnitude. Come out of that storm, and I laughed. I said, now I was about to just stop and pull over. And I look behind me and I see all the cars that were following my lights. Well, everybody slowed down, but because I had my flashes on, they couldn't see. The only thing they could see was my light. They couldn't see my vehicle, but they could see my light. You're doing a lot of talking, but they can't see your light. You're telling everybody about all the things that you've come through in your life, but now that you're going through this, they can't see the light that you have. Because at this stage in your life, we talk about having gone through something. But every time something else comes up, it's almost like we're traumatic when something else comes up, as if God is not going to do what he did last year.
All right.
God is saying, y'all tripping. He says, how is it that I've brought you this far? And you think I'm just going to cast you aside now that this has come? Do you not believe that if you are in me and I am in you, that I will take care of you? But the problem with many of us, we don't want to be in him. We want to be on him. We don't want to fully commit to being in him. Why is that? Because it requires a full commitment. That means the good, the bad, and the ugly.
That's right.
I know this one thing, that God has proven to me over the years, and I'm learning this still along with all of you, that God is able to flex when we get into trouble that we can't get ourselves out of. That's when God is saying, now, this is my time. And I've discovered this, that oftentimes when we're asking for God to come, it's as if God is like making preparation. He don't have to get ready. Let me say this. I want to preface this because he don't have to get ready.
Yes, sir.
But it's almost like when you call on God out of desperation, God is like in the back saying, hold on, let me warm up. You know, let me warm up. And let me stretch a little bit. And you're calling on him. He's like, hold on. I got to get this together. Hold on. He doesn't do that, but it's like he does, where he is flexing, saying, okay, now I'm about to do this work, and I want them to see my glory. And he steps on the scene, and he does something that is so amazing. But what's crazy about it, that as soon as he does the amazing thing, what we do is we act as if we hadn't seen it before. And it never happened before. So what we do is we just say, oh, thank you. We were desperate and crying and rolling around on the floor and begging him to show up. And once he comes through, we say, oh, thank you. Because we just want to go on with our lives as if God has nothing better to do. But God is saying, I want you to trust me wholeheartedly. I've been saying this, that all of us have had this thing where we love the work that God is working through us. But we are repulsed by the work he wants to do in us. There's some ugly things that are still in me, no matter how much I like to dress. But underneath this suit is some raggediness. There's some filth under this. You know it is, because if you don't take a bath for 2 days, no matter how good you dress, no matter how much cologne or perfume you put on or body spray you put on, your body will tell the truth. You might walk around other people as if you got it together, but somebody's going to say, what's that smell? Somebody will say, now they might not say it to you, but they'll lean over to somebody else and say, Do you smell that? That ain't me. Everybody looks your way and you don't. We're oblivious that it's us. When God is saying, what is that smell? It ain't me. God, I'm doing all I know I can do. I'm doing the best I can do. He said, no, you ain't in the vine. You own the vine, but you ain't in it. He says, yeah, you need more long suffering, but now you also need more kindness. You mean. You say you in Jesus, but you ain't in Jesus if you mean.
That's right.
If you have a mean spirit, a mean disposition, you ain't in the vine. You're on the vine.
That's right.
He says that if you are in fact in me and I am in you, that is reflective of the vine. See, he says we're the branches, he's the vine. That means that we come off of the vine. The vine is actually rooted in the ground. The branches ain't in the ground. But what we do is we like to act as if we are the vine. We control everything. When he's saying, no, you don't control it. And when you get beside yourself, I need my Father to come by and clip you.
Yeah, okay.
Says goodness is also one of those attributes that we need. Goodness, faithfulness. He says, if you don't have any commitment to me, if you don't have any glue, as my mother would say, stick-to-itiveness, if you can't stick to what God has given you, he says you can ask. Gentleness. Some of us just not gentle. Something breaks out in our life and we just snatching stuff. We snapping at folk, snapping at our kids and snapping at our husbands and wives and snapping at everybody because God didn't give us what we want. He said, not gentle. He says, no, be gentle. Even though storm is going crazy, go somewhere. Gather yourself and let me give you the fruit that others may see, that when it's all falling apart in your life, they want to know what happened. How is it that you're able to keep that together? It's not my disposition, it's not my character, but God help me. Help me because I don't want to be like this. I want to be just as you purpose for me to be. As we find in the scripture, they say, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations or trouble. Who's going to be joyful that you have trouble? But he says that the reason why we find it is because we know if there's conflict, we know God is close by. We know that he's at work. I've learned this, that especially over the past couple of years, where I felt like I was being so mistreated that it warranted me going off. I believe that God would sanction that. You know, just like some of us now, you know, somebody did you wrong last night. Somebody said something wrong to you this past week, and you felt that you were justified in being able to just cuss them out. I know y'all, I know, but I know. You were justified. Somebody called you out your name. Some of us have been called some racial epithets, and we have felt like it's justifiable for us to respond in a way that they have talked to us. But God is saying, I want the fruit that exemplifies me. That means that when they speak evil of you, he said, you speak kind. When they slap you in your face, he says, what I want you to do when they slap you is turn the other cheek and let them slap the other. He says, why is that? Because they're going to get angrier when you turn the other cheek. Because they're going to say, so that didn't make you mad? That didn't make you go off? No, because why is that? Because I'm in him and he's in me. You can't do this on your own. Listen, when I went through what I went through, and I'm sitting there and I know that it's going down. It's about to go down in flames. The Lord is telling me as I'm sitting in the boardroom, he said, sit up straight. Fix your face.
Come on.
They ain't running nothing. I'm running this.
We got it all in control.
He said, don't get bitter. You bless my name.
Yes, sir.
I know you think it's all going down the drain, but I want you to lift your hands and bless my name.
Yes, sir.
Walk out of there and I'm mad at the world, mad at God. Some of us in this room right now, you still mad at God. God is saying, I'm setting you up for success, but you're wallowing in your failure. He said, no, we haven't gone through the storm. You got in the storm and you stopped. You're supposed to still be going through it so that I can work in you. But we have got caught up on the storm, focusing on the storm. God is saying, no, you need to be watching me because they don't own nothing. I own cattle on 1,000 hills. They own nothing.
Yes, sir.
Walk out of there and I'm thinking, I lost everything. God is saying, I will provide all of your need.
Yes.
But not just your need, but according to. Not my riches. Not my neighbor's riches. Not my friend's riches, but according to his riches. When I find that I do the opposite, I'm about to close. When I find that I do the opposite of what I desire to do, I find that God is more glorified. That's okay. It's more glorified.
That's right.
What happens here is that we often believe that it's always got to be at the end. It's always got to be at the end and not the beginning. That we lift our hands, that we open up our mouths, and that we praise the Lord. I'm going to say this. For those of us, if you are in this room and you're having a dilemma right now, you're in a current dilemma. You don't have to tell me what it is. You don't have to stand. You don't have to. But if you're in a current dilemma, just lift your finger. You ain't got to raise your hand. Just lift your finger. Because now you're going to acknowledge to God that you know that you're going through something that you can't fix. But while you're going through, I'm going to trust God in spite of what I'm going through.
Yes, Lord.
I'm doing this where I'm encouraging all of you, those here in person and those that are on the line, to not allow what God purposes to do in you to die on the vine instead of it being in the vine. And it may seem rough right now and you can't understand what it is that God is doing. But if you just trust him, trust him. Trust him. Let me say that again. Trust him. Don't trust nobody else.
Yes.
I trust my wife. I trust her. I trust her. But I don't trust her like I trust God.
All right. There is a difference.
trust her. I know she's going to be there. I know that she's going to be there, but I don't trust my wife more than I trust God. I can't put my trust in her. Because when I put my trust in her, she's going to crumble in a storm that I can't handle. There are things that will happen in other people's lives that they can't get control, but they're trying to help you get control. But I know God, who says, come unto me, all you that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Hell, you need rest. Stop going down the street and figuring out how you're going to get rest from something that's going to crumble and deteriorate and go away. Go to God.
Yes, sir.
He gives us the rest.
Yeah.
He gives us the rest. This is my last note and I'm done. Number 3. My mama always told me, and my mother's gone. She left in 2017. She died in 2017. But there's something my mother has always said to me, even as a young man. She said, I can remember this one time. I could just remember this one time where something was happening and I was beside myself, pacing back and forth and crying and all of this and being. She said, go to bed. She said, you need to go to bed. Go lay down. She said, one thing that I know how to deal with trouble, and the best way to deal with trouble is to sleep trouble away. Now, she's not talking about sleep until trouble is gone. She said, in order to be reinvigorated, she said, God speaks to us in our sleep. And our circumstance changes when we lay down.
Yes, sir. That's good.
And you sleep. Now, here's the kicker. The circumstance may not change, but you will change in spite of the circumstance. Have you ever worked so hard or done something so much through the day that you couldn't seem to get your wits, that at the end of the day you were just so all out of sorts that nothing you did seemingly came together? You couldn't get your thoughts right. You couldn't read right. You couldn't put nothing together. You couldn't put gas in the tank. You couldn't start the car. But when you took a nap, you found that you got reinvigorated.
Yes.
God says, no, what you need to do is you need to just rest in me.
Yes, sir.
And when you wake up, or when you stand up, or when you get up, you'll find that the situation is still there,
Yes, sir.
but the way you look at it is different. You know, y'all had that circumstance where you said, I thought that was worse than what it was. What was I thinking? How did I quit to taking a nap and waking up and going, that's how you do that. You wake up and you have a different thought and a different approach. You go, God, where did that come from? It came from me. It's from God. We be trying to conjure up stuff on our own, and God is saying, nah, it ain't that hard. It really ain't that hard. You make it that hard. But it ain't that hard if you are in me. Now, if you ain't in me, but you own me, everywhere you turn is confusion. But when you rest in God, not rest on him, but rest in him, you can ask him for those things, not for those things that won't give you peace, joy, long suffering, and all those things. But when you ask him, he will give you the tools you need in order to get through it. Don't let it die on the vine.